Good afternoon, everybody. Apologize for my tardiness today. Thanks for being here. Another packed room. It's good to see. We'll begin with a scheduling update today. President Trump will commemorate the 24th anniversary of 9/11 on Thursday with a visit to the Pentagon Memorial in the morning, followed by an appearance at the New York Yankees game at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx on Thursday evening. Next week, as you all know, the President and the First Lady will depart for their historic state visit to the United Kingdom on Tuesday, and they return to Washington on Thursday. Today, I would like to address the tragedy that has not received nearly enough media attention, the brutal murder of Arena Zerutka. Here are the facts that many outlets have shamefully and intentionally failed to report until President Trump drew attention to it. On August 22nd, Arena Zerutka was stabbed to death on the rail system in Charlotte, North Carolina, by a savage career criminal. This is a public transportation system that many in the area use every single day to go to school and work. Arena was on the train that night traveling home from her job at a pizzeria, still in uniform from her shift. This beautiful, innocent 23-year-old young woman was a Ukrainian refugee who had recently fled her country for a chance at a safer life and a promising new beginning here in the United States of America. But tragically, a public transportation system in a major American city was more dangerous than the active war zone that she left. The President and the entire White House are praying for her family and friends during this unimaginably difficult time. But while we extend our thoughts and prayers, we must also seek justice for this crime and call attention to this heinous incident. Surveillance video of the killing was finally released to the public this past Friday. It shows the alleged killer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., pull out a knife, get up from his seat behind Arena, and prepare to thrust a blade into her neck before the released footage gets cut. This is pure evil on full display. The most enraging and unacceptable part of this story is that her death was entirely preventable. DeCarlos Brown never should have been on that train that night. In fact, he should have been behind bars. DeCarlos Brown has been charged with crimes no fewer than 14 times, dating back to 2011, including for armed robbery, felony larceny, breaking and entering, and shoplifting. Brown had previously served 5 years in prison for a robbery with a deadly weapon charge, and he had also forfeited bonds 3 different times, twice in 2014 and once in 2023. Despite all of this past documented criminal history, when Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris, released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing. Think about how crazy it is to ask a career criminal, someone who by definition repeatedly breaks the law, to just sign a written promise and come back again another day. This is madness. This monster should have been locked up, and Arena should still be alive. But Democrat politicians, liberal judges, and weak prosecutors would rather virtue signal than lock up criminals and protect their communities. And perhaps most shamefully of all, the majority of the media, many outlets in this room, decided that her murder was not worth reporting on originally because it does not fit a preferred narrative. Many of the journalists in this room spilled plenty of ink trying to smear Daniel Penny for defending a subway car from a deranged lunatic in New York City, but none of those same reporters lift a finger to write stories about an actual murderer. Here's the truth that every American must know. Too many innocent people across the country continue to pay the price of the failed experiment known as cashless bail that has been championed by the Democrat Party for years. All the way back in 2020, North Carolina's then Democrat Governor Roy Cooper established a so-called task force for racial equity and criminal justice. Sounds nice, but it's not. That task force was co-authored by then Attorney General and current Democrat Governor Josh Stein. It recommended, quote, reimagining public safety to, quote, promote diversion and other alternatives to arrest. It also advised to de-emphasize some felony crimes, prioritize, quote, restorative justice, and eliminate cash bail. Democrats in North Carolina and nationwide are consumed with pushing a woke, soft-on-crime agenda, no matter how many innocent Americans suffer as a result. Instead of aggressively prosecuting and locking up violent criminals, the Democrat-backed cashless bail approach lets these criminals roam free in our country to offend again and again. These reckless policies have turned too many of American cities into hunting grounds for career criminals who mock our justice system, drain law enforcement resources, and wreak havoc on law-abiding citizens. Enough is enough, and that is why President Trump is doing everything in his power by taking action to undo these absurd policies. The president recently signed a powerful executive order directing the AG to submit a list of states and local jurisdictions with cashless bail policies so that the Trump administration may identify federal funds that are being provided to these states and can potentially be suspended or terminated. President Trump firmly believes that to maintain order in public safety, we must incarcerate individuals whose pending criminal charges or criminal history demonstrate a clear ongoing risk to civil society. This is a common sense and sensible approach that the vast majority of Americans agree with, and it's time for the Democrat Party to get on board with what is right. When these criminals are caught, they must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and be sent to prison, where they can no longer terrorize our streets. This is the mandate the American people delivered to President Trump, and it's a mandate he intends to fulfill. Staying on the topic of public safety, new preliminary data released today by Customs and Border Protection in August shows that President Trump has delivered the most secure border in American history. For the fourth straight month, 0 illegal aliens were released into the United States by CBP. Nationwide encounters are down 93% below the peak of the Biden administration. Border Patrol apprehensions on the southwest border in the entire month of August were less than what was apprehended in 4 days in August 2024 under the Biden administration. President Trump has ended disastrous Biden illegal alien invasion, and he sealed our border in record time, keeping this central promise he made to the American public. With that, I will take your questions. Here in our new media seat today, we have Michael Schellenberger, who is the founder of Public News with nearly 2 million readers and subscribers. Michael, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And why don't you kick us off? Sure.
Thank you for making space for new media. Nice to meet all of you. It's great to be here. I want to see if you could give some insight into whether the president is considering additional measures against Europe and Brazil, not just for censorship, but also for preventing political candidates from actually competing in elections. We've now seen in Romania, France, and now Germany with Joachim Paul, efforts to basically just prevent candidates from being able to compete in elections. The president has shown some concern around President Bolsonaro, who's being prevented from running. All of this is coming in the context of increased censorship of online platforms, of American platforms, and efforts to censor Americans. I'm personally being investigated under criminal investigation with my Brazilian colleagues for publishing the Twitter Files Brazil. We're very grateful that the president has imposed Magnitsky sanctions on the judge. Is the president considering additional actions, given that it appears that they're going to end up with a conviction against President Bolsonaro, preventing him from running? Is he considering doing anything about this crackdown in Europe? I mean, it's shocking to see Joachim Paul, this mayoral candidate in Germany, the criminal indictment against him cites him, quote, saying that he loves the Lord of the Rings as reason why he's an extremist and shouldn't be able to run. So I just wonder if you could speak to that. And again, I'm grateful to be here. Nice to meet you all. And I'm grateful for what the Trump administration has done to push for free speech abroad.
Well, thanks for being here, Michael. We appreciate it. Freedom of speech is arguably the most important issue of our time. It is enshrined in our Constitution, and the president believes in it strongly. He himself faced censorship in his road back to this beautiful Oval Office here in Washington, D.C., so he takes this very seriously, as does, I know, the Vice President of the United States and the entire Trump administration, which is why we have taken significant action with regards to Brazil in the form of both sanctions and also leveraging the use of tariffs to ensure that countries around the world are not punishing their citizens in this way. And at the same time, the president is, while he's leveraging the United States to safeguard our interests abroad, he's also making sure that freedom of speech remains here in the United States of America. So I don't have any additional actions to preview for you today, but I can tell you this is a priority for the administration, and the president is unafraid to use the economic might, the military might of the United States of America to protect free speech around the world.
Thanks, Carol. I want to ask about the benchmark revisions that came out. If you look at the revisions between March of 2024 and March of 2025, and you do a little math, it averages out to 73,000 jobs roughly per month added to the economy, less than what was thought. When can we expect the Trump administration, now that their policies are rolling out, for that increase, that average to increase?
Well, let me just say something about the revisions that came out this morning. And this was one of the biggest revisions in absolute terms in decades. And the benchmark year, March 2024 to 2025, shows that the job growth was vastly weaker during the Biden administration than ever previously reported. Between this revision and last year's, job growth was actually overstated by approximately 2 million jobs. And the Biden administration stood up here and vouched for that data and told you that data was real. And when President Trump calls into question the veracity of that data, like he did before he took the oath of office and even now as President of the United States, he was ridiculed for that. And turns out this revision proves two things. Number one, the president was right. And this is why we need new leadership at the Fed. And this makes it very clear that President Trump inherited a much worse economy by the Biden administration than ever reported. And it also proves that the Federal Reserve is holding our monetary policy far too restrictive. Interest rates are too high. The Fed needs to cut the rates because of the mess that we inherited from the Biden administration.
Time frame. The president has said a year. Secretary Bessent said maybe the fourth quarter. When can we expect these numbers to increase?
Well, first, we need accurate numbers. We need truthful and honest data, which is why the president took the monumental step to try and appoint and confirm new leadership at the BLS so we can have data that we can actually rely on. And that's what the president is doing, and we hope that his nominee will soon be confirmed. Christian.
Thanks, Caroline. Following up on Ed, now that we have these revised jobs numbers, is the president concerned at all that price spikes, stemming from his tariffs through the end of the year might actually be driving the country towards a depression or a recession? What I'm asking is he committed to these policies now that we know how faulty the jobs data was?
The president is committed to his policies because his policies are working, Christian. And there have been a lot of people fear-mongering about inflation in this room, but it just has not come to fruition. On a monthly basis, CPI inflation has now come in at or below the market's expectation for 6 consecutive months, every month that President Trump has been in office. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9% average pace in the president's first 6 months in office. I would have told all of you that in January, you would not have believed me, but those are the facts and those are the numbers. And we also see many other positive signs in economic indicators like real GDP. In the second quarter, it was revised up to 3.3%. That beat the market's expectation. We know there's a capital spending boom right now, which we know is one of the greatest economic indicators of job growth. We know wages are increasing at a far faster pace than they were under the previous administration. We see productivity in the second quarter was also revised up to a strong 3.3%. In total industrial production, factory output also surged. All of this means the economy is moving, people are working, people are spending money. You look at consumer spending, that is also ticking up and in the right direction. And in a large part, it's because of the incredible work the president has done in terms of energy and unlocking our energy dominance in this country. Again, these jobs, the numbers from the BLS today prove that the economy was an absolute mess, and we are working every single day to fix it, and all of those indicators I just read for you are positive sign of what is to come. Behind you. Go ahead.
After the immigration raid at the plant in Georgia on Friday, the president said over the weekend that he's open to some kind of changes in perhaps rules or visa rules or law that would prevent something like that happening in the future for skilled workers to train American workers.
That's right.
Can you confirm that and that the administration supports those changes, and what exactly would that look like?
Well, the president said it himself in a statement that he put out on Sunday night, where he is very grateful for foreign companies from around the world and the investments that they are making right here in the United States of America. And he understands that these companies want to bring their highly skilled and trained workers with them, especially when they're creating very niche products like chips, or in this case in Georgia, like batteries. But the president also expects these foreign companies to hire American workers, and for these foreign workers and American workers to work together to train and to teach one one another. And so he expects these foreign companies to hire American labor. We want Americans to have these jobs. Americans need these jobs, but he also understands the need for these companies to bring over their workers who already have these skills. So I think it's a very,
what those changes might be?
I think it's a very nuanced and responsible and sensible approach for the president to take. And I know that the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Commerce are working on this matter together. I would defer you to them for any further action on this front. I'll take a couple more questions. Why don't we go to the back?
Tom Dempsey with News Nation. Regarding the growing U.S. military
News
presence,
Nation, all the way in the back.
regarding the U.S. military, the growing U.S. military presence in the Caribbean, when asked directly about possible future military action, President Trump responded, "You're going to find out." What could the U.S. public expect of that situation moving forward, and what sort of ongoing threat does Trendeo Agra present?
I think it would be very unwise of me to preview what the president meant from this podium. But I think what the heart of what the president was saying, I know what the heart of what the president was saying and this administration believes, is that the regime in Venezuela is illegitimate. And it is unacceptable to this president and this administration to traffic illegal, deadly drugs into the United States of America. And that's why the president and the administration took very strong action against a boat and 11 narco-terrorists in international waters, as you all saw. I think that sends a very strong message to drug traffickers around the world. The president will not tolerate it, and the amount of drugs on that boat represents the lives of thousands of Americans that could have been killed by that deadly poison, and we're not going to allow that deadly poison to come into our country. The president will be signing a proclamation in the Oval Office later this afternoon, and we will see you all later. Thank you.